This is incredible. Thanks for the partnership, and just really special thanks to the Kresge Foundation, where Elwood and I, have the honor to serve as fellows, and their resources make this possible. It's incredibly generous and it's incredibly important. I follow what's happened here pretty closely. I wrote this book called Rise of the Creative Class, and when I wrote the book, there was this group called Creative Fresno, and that's kind of an honor if you're an author, people working on your subject area. So I came here 15 years ago, but I followed Fresno before that, and I followed it all the way through. And, the other thing, you might think Fresno's gone through tough times, and it has, like many cities. But you need to know two things about me. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and my wife's from Detroit. So I know not only intellectually, I know personally how much effort it takes to transform and rebuild and revitalize and create pride in cities, especially cities that have suffered. So look, people ask me all the time, what do I get wrong? And they always want to ask me really dumb things. Didn't you think your idea of the creative class was stupid? Of course not. I didn't think my idea of the creative class was stupid. I actually think it's a group of people, artists and creative people and designers and knowledge-based professionals that are transforming societies we'll talk about tonight. Not only transforming creative industries, transforming hard industries like automotive and transforming agriculture, which is happening right here. Oh, well, you like the agent of gentrification? No, I do not have the power to gentrify neighborhoods through my words. But the mayor pointed out something that I did get wrong. When I wrote that book, I thought that every neighborhood, including downtown neighborhoods, could be rebuilt as wonderfully beautiful little live-work neighborhoods with a couple of cafes and a restaurant and an art gallery. Well, what happened with COVID and the pandemic and the shift to remote work is people didn't have to go to the office anymore. And here's a statistic for you. If there's one statistic you remember. A good buddy of mine, Paul Levy, who's a leading downtown expert, did a big study of 30 leading downtowns in America, and the statistic knocked me off my chair. Working activity, as they measure by cell phones, workers make up about 20 to 25% of activity, commuter workers. Residents make up 10 to 15%. The people I was thinking about. Visitors make up 60 to 65%. So the idea that I was against, and I always said I would have given horrible advice as a city like Pittsburgh or Detroit, well, you should know, entertainment anchors in the form of stadia, arena, soccer stadiums, universities, health systems, all of this stuff, but especially the kind of entertainment venues that people need to come to are really important. And the other thing that's changed is that the people who run these stadiums and arenas have become city builders and placemakers. They've come to understand that they can't seal themselves out from it. So that's the thing I got wrong, and I think importantly, to create energy in downtowns, you have to do it all. But it has to be, I always say, my book was titled, The Rise of the Creative Class and How It's Transforming How We Live, Work, and Build Community. I would have said how we live, work, play, and connect. And I think that's the thing that's really important in rebuilding downtown.
You've been consolidating some of your latest thinking in a new Harvard Business Review article. It just came out, and I really recommend people see it. You've introduced the idea of the knowledge campus. And for me, a key takeaway, and I'd love to drill a little bit down into this, was that all of the people who said that downtowns were over and that corporations no longer want to go downtowns, that they're anachronistic, that they're no longer needed, you're here to disabuse them of that fact. That corporations actually do want to put headquarters in cities, but their expectations are very, very different. That they now want to embed them in districts. Could you describe that idea a little bit more?
And so there's an interesting backstory too whenever you write something. So the Harvard Business Review appeals to business executives, CEOs, managers, entrepreneurs, and founders. So the article I proposed had a different title, and this is useful. What we have called downtowns traditionally is a central business district. And that title is wrong. It's anachronistic. In fact, workers make up 20 to 25%, about a fifth to a quarter of activity. But still we have this idea of a central business district. And if you look at the effects of digital and remote work. The hardest hit areas in America haven't been residential suburbs, they haven't been rural communities, they haven't been districts outside the traditional downtown, like your own Brewery district, or districts like that all across the country. They've been the traditional business district filled with office towers where people would march into work at 9, plug their computer in, sit with their dial phone, and be tracked to their desk. You know, I said in April of 2020, these things were going to die. In fact, the greatest book on the history of downtowns, it's called Downtown. Its rise and fall, listen to the dates, 1880 to 1950. Not 1880 to 2026, 1950. So I was trying to think about what would come next. Oh, it's a central entertainment district, right? It's a central socialization district. It's a central recreational district. It's a central connection district. And I had this idea, drawing on my own work, that the shift in the economy was not just about business, it was about talent. And talent was the thing that was drawing business, and I was going to call it a central talent district. And my editor said, not a single business person will ever want to read that. I said, what about a campus, an urban campus? That's like a new headquarters. Call it the urban campus. So that's how that article got that name. What I did was work with all these hotshot consultants at Boston Consulting Group all over the world who had studied business districts everywhere. One of my colleagues was a former dean in Tokyo, and I've been to Japan a lot, and I know when you go to Japan, you kind of sometimes see the future. He had been studying what was happening in Tokyo. And look, they did incredible research, but what we discovered is that downtowns were no longer just a single central business district, that they were an amalgamation of different districts. Like the Brewery district, in Tokyo there were 5 or 6 of them. Some of them were about the creative industry, some of them were about management industry, some of them were about high-tech industry. But they were all doing things, and they weren't just in the building. They were merging the building with the street. And the high-speed rail is really important because many of these were being built in proximity to rail or on top of rail. So I go to dinner in New York City at the new thing in the talking about the future of New York's downtown with the commercial real estate brokers and AI people, and somebody starts talking. And you know how they talked about converting the headquarters, the old towers, into residential? What I started to learn was the big companies in New York were tearing down their old headquarters and not putting up residential. They were building new headquarters in a new way. They were no longer cubicle farms where workers worked in isolations. They were all about creating the experience of a great restaurant or a great cafe or a great meeting space. They were filling them with event spaces. And we talk about opening spaces to the street. They were opening them. They were putting them in the most vibrant neighborhoods. They were putting them in there with street level excitement. One, to encourage people to come to work, but two, to encourage people to connect and build culture and collaboration. So I think you have this incredible opportunity not to rebuild the downtown as it was, but to start over and rebuild it as it should be. And I think that's the most, as an urbanist, I can think of, and one other thing, sorry. The greatest urbanist of all time is a woman named Jane Jacobs. This is really important. Jane is famous for a book she wrote in 1961 called The Death and Life of Great American Cities. Everyone forgets that she wrote an essay before that was published in Forbes. Does anyone know the name of it? The name of this essay, written when 1951, when companies were conquering downtowns with urban renewals and building giant towers, is Downtown is for People. Let that sink in. Downtown is not just for business, it's not just for big, it's for people. And I think that was the starting point of this. How do we recreate our downtowns and use this fabric to serve people?
So, here's a question. I, for a long time, thought of a successful downtown as one that started to look like all other downtowns. So you'd say, oh, Starbucks is here, the Gap is here, and yet I think we're hearing some stories even tonight with the awardees. It's about how do we create, helping put words to it. It's almost something a little more unique or special. Is that part of the human experience that you're talking about?
You know, sometimes you're lucky that you didn't have a wave of investment that ruined you. You know, sometimes places that are a little bit forgotten have an advantage. And so I think when you look at it, what the downtown of the past was an attempt to erase who you are. The downtown of Detroit and Fresno and Pittsburgh, they all look the same, didn't they? They had the same hotels, they had the same office buildings, a lot of their historic buildings were erased, and they were, you could go anywhere. And I think now what people are looking for, look, and I study this is what I study. Young people are special. If you look at young people in the big cities, whether that's Tokyo or London or Paris or New York, because of the incredible wealth inequality, because of the cost of things, the unaffordability, they're starting to reject all these old signifiers of status, and they're starting to go back to things that are more authentic coffee shops, authentic restaurants. But even with clothing, they no longer want to wear all the designer brands. If they want to wear it, they go back to the vintage store and get the original one. So I think the whole idea of downtown expressing not a generic view of the city, but an authentic view of the city is really important. And that's beginning to turn very rapidly. The thing is, I always, Jane, she had such incredible, new ideas require old buildings. Think about that. New ideas require old buildings. The idea being that old buildings strike something in you. They strike a particular part of you. And if you look at, say, the Brewery District, they're easily reconfigurable. They have space that is easily reconfigurable and adaptable. Most importantly, is affordable. You look at, and I don't mean to, I love New York, I love LA, I love, but imagine trying to be a young person, not only trying to start out, to open a restaurant. You can't do it. It's completely impossible. So what young creative people are doing is migrating to places as they always have. There's nothing new in this. People went to Soho and Tribeca when they were cheap, not when they're fancy. People migrate to affordable spaces that they can reconvert and adapt and make their thing. And I think this is a huge opportunity you have in recreating your own downtown.
What's interesting, this is a through line, isn't it, from the rise of the creative class, is that sometimes new energy freshens up a city, doesn't it? I think some of us who've been working in urban development forever can start to feel like, it's going so slowly, I'm not sure I can see the possibilities. And you really do need a little bit of fresh blood sometimes. And I think you've talked a lot about the importance of making a city work for young people, for families, for people who are willing to take some personal risks and to build out, to integrate all aspects of their life in one place.
I mean, the mayor said that a great city needs a great downtown. And the downtown is bigger than a central business district. The downtown is kind of the center of a community. It's the place that is the most centrally located. You think about Dan Gilbert in Detroit, right? I remember I'm sitting in a hotel in Detroit. My wife's from Detroit. The downtown's been totally neglected, right? It's completely abandoned. And I'm watching this guy on a Saturday morning local television show named, I didn't know his name was Dan Gilbert, saying, I'm going to move all my company downtown. And I'm going to go there because it's the most centrally located part of the region. What am I going to do out in the suburbs? Some people can get there, but they're not. It has the best transportation access, the best highway. That's why it's there. And then what he said was, I saw a buildings on a fire sale. I knew it was smart to build them, to buy them. And look, that was about the time I was here last. So this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time, and it takes, if you think about it, no city symbolized decline more than, well, maybe Newark, maybe my hometown. My wife and I, we vibe. And you look at how down people were on that city. And then you think of what's happened, particularly, I think if you had asked me, I'm being honest, to be all honesty, 2010, 2015, could Detroit come back? I would have said, I hope so. And all of a sudden, it's like I was sitting at an event, the U.S. Hospitality Association, the owners of all the travel companies, American Express, and I'm sitting there, and it's like 2022, and this is when San Francisco was experiencing crime and vagrancy after the pandemic, and one of them said, Richard, it's really interesting. We want to do more conferences and do more in San Francisco. It's a great city, but what could San Francisco learn from Detroit? And my jaw hit the ground. because they had believed that Detroit had completely transformed itself. Yeah, I also think the story of transformation is very powerful. And I think your story of transformation is especially powerful. Let me tell you why. I think you have one of the, potentially the most powerful narratives of transformation in the country, if not the world. And I think it's analogous to Detroit. What captivated people's minds for the past 2 decades was whiz-bang technology, like the supercomputer we carry in our pocket, right? This was a big deal to invent the future, to invent these technologies. But they're now commonplace and they're now everywhere. What seems to be captivating people's minds today is how do we transform traditional industries using technology? So what's been so interesting in Detroit, where the Fresno Foundation is located, is that the car is no longer the car that our parents and grandparents were. The car has become a computer on wheels, right? And this whole idea of transforming a traditional industry using robots to make it, artificial intelligence to think about it, software to program it, new forms of energy to power it. There's an industry that came before automotive. It's called agriculture. You have the largest concentration, the most concentrated industry in the United States. It's like what finance is to New York. It's what high technology is to San Francisco, right? It's what entertainment is to LA. It's what music is to Nashville. It's what cars is to Detroit. It's what, and there are 10 cities in the United States that have this. You have one. And we spent the past couple of days going out and visiting Fresno State and Merced. And look, I've taught at Carnegie Mellon for 20 years. I'm at Vanderbilt. We're starting a whole program on artificial intelligence in the city in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. What I saw about the farm of the future, about the smart farm, blew my mind. This idea of combining a new downtown with a region that has a wholly transformed industry, this is your offer to the world. You become the world center of this. It is the most powerful narrative I can only imagine. I'm not sure exactly how to get you there. I want to work on it some more. But it is clear to me that you not only have great things happening, of course you have great things happening in and around the downtown, but you have a regional economy that can be the focal point of really tremendous technologically enabled growth.
Let's dig deeper on into the applications to Fresno. So we have in this region the largest and most important agricultural region in the United States of America. You have institutions like UC Merced, Cal State Fresno that are positioning this region to be the global center of future ag tech. And what you're saying is that ag tech needs a city. It needs a capital city in this region that people want to move to. It needs a metro in which it can be embedded. So for example, we visited the farm at Cal State Fresno. They were experimenting with these devices that the cows swallow. They're high tech. They can communicate on a moment by moment basis, temperature, moisture, etc. Richard asked, where is that coming from? I think they said Denmark. What does it take to bring that high-tech corporation to Fresno, and what does it need in this city? Because they're not going to move out to the outskirts.
You know, I haven't thought about this until now. I mean, it's been percolating, but if you look at what's happening in the so-called superstar cities that were supposed to be dead, New York and San Francisco, they're not dead. New York has become the center of global finance more than ever before. New headquarters being built at $3 and $4 billion. Companies from around the world coming to New York to locate closer to home. What's happening in San Francisco? Is it all supposed to go to the cloud? All that stuff is going to go to the cloud. Everyone's going to move? No. Artificial intelligence is more concentrated in San Francisco. 75% of all U.S. venture capital funding, 60% of global venture capital funding. They are building, these new startup companies are building entire districts. They're building districts with customers and suppliers and coffee houses. And people are in the office 9 to 11. You should have that.
That's right.
You should be the center of ag tech. Just like Detroit is positioning itself to be the center of a mobility tech with Michigan Central, the Denmark company, it wants to locate here. All of these companies that are experimenting with agricultural technology want to be part of what we call a cluster. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me to think about all the universities that do this, Cornell, Michigan State, Ohio State, all, and their European and Asian equivalents, they should have outposts here. And universities, we at Vanderbilt have just started 4 new campuses, including we just purchased the California Institute of Arts and Design. We have a major new campus going into New York. Universities we want to be where the intellectual, technological action is. We don't no longer think it can just be on our campus. You have the ability, through this incredible industry you have here, to begin to attract all of those startups. And God bless, you're close to San Francisco, and you need to take advantage of this. If you have the center of AI technology in the world, and it's close to the application, where is the first place the San Francisco companies are opening branches? New York. Why? To be close to the applications in finance and real estate. This application area, if you will, or industrial sector area, is a leverage point that I would say a handful of other regions have, and you have it. And the question is then, how do you move forward to combine that with the recalibration and reinvention of your downtown?
Would you try to restate this and tell me if this is correct? It might have been okay in the past to have a downtown that was office buildings without the kind of mixed uses and integrated lifestyle, but that's anachronistic now. It might have been okay to have agriculture that had no relationship to downtown Fresno in the past. That's not okay now. Would you say that was that the link you want to make?
So if you don't have that, all you can be, if you're not a place that's highly specialized, a New York, a London, a San Francisco, a Nashville, a Detroit, a Houston, a Fresno, all you really can be is a nice place to live and work in an affordable suburb. I'm being honest. So the cities that don't have that, they can adjust, but they can only adjust. I call it the rise of a new kind of city, which is a network of hubs and satellites. If you can be a hub, you are in an incredibly privileged position, and I have no doubt. This I know as fact, that you are a hub. You just haven't put the hub in motion, and there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Who thought agriculture could be this? Who thought agriculture would be technologically reinvented? Who thought this could happen? And people here seem to be kind of humble. You know, we're not big shot San Francisco techies or LA movie moguls. We're people from Fresno. I know these kind of people, right? I grew up like this in New Jersey. So thinking about how to harness these assets and to say, in the past it was okay to be a regional downtown center with generic buildings. Now, according to the research we did, every downtown in the world, you have to have a dominant leading edge cluster. You have to be the center of something. You have to have a multiplicity of districts, that some of which are a little bit more work oriented, some of it which have a little bit more housing, but a lot of it which is based on entertainment. And you have to have access for transport. And here from heaven, as if from heaven in Providence, comes a high-speed rail station. It's just like, and obviously it will be a short line to begin with. But you have to think about the long run. In the long run, that high-speed rail makes you part of it. Look, there are two great mega regions, economic constellations in the United States. One is on the East Coast. It's the New York, Boston, Washington corridor. The other one is on the West Coast. It's you guys in San Francisco and LA and everything else. And what have we learned in the past couple of days? California is the fourth largest economy in the world. This mega region, I'll bet, I haven't done the math, but I'll bet that mega region that you're part of is the fifth, sixth, or seventh largest economy in the world. So that kind of potency, and then just what the mayor said, thinking strategically about how to execute and understanding it won't just happen tomorrow, developing a strategy, not necessarily a shelf plan, but a strategy, an actual strategy to execute on that over the, say, the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Richard, one last question, and forgive me, I don't mean to put pressure on you, but when you write something, it has an impact, it has ripple effects. And you wrote an article recently about what the country should be learning from Tulsa. So what should the country be paying attention to or potentially learning from in Fresno?
Yeah, so look, I've been around for a long time. I have a good name to do this, Richard Florida. It'd be better if it was California, but it's Florida. I know a lot of editors and newspaper people and book published, and this happened, so yeah. And they asked me to write things. One thing I will say is I will write something. I no doubt will write something. Not because I want to be nice to you. It'd be easy to say I want to be nice to Fresno. It's because I think you have the most compelling narrative of any place I've been. And I think it's a compelling narrative in this moment when people feel uprooted, they feel troubled, they don't know where the world is coming, they're nervous about technology, really nervous about technology, and some of the people who have control of our technologies, to be able to make the case that our ability to innovate is not just about making whiz-bang new things, it's about transforming the most basic of industries, and about transforming a community that's been in the past struggle. It is one of the most powerful narratives. So yeah, and then I would say, and this is when you're going to think I'm insane, but this will be the most important thing I tell you. Of everything I told you, this is the most important thing I'm going to say. Get ready for what's coming at you. Get ready. You are affordable, and young people are looking, and families are looking for affordable housing. You have a beautiful built environment here that can be fixed up, but it ain't that expensive to fix it up. And you're going to have a high-speed rail, and you have the farm of the future here. It's coming, trust me. And this isn't, okay, please don't. If this was Nebraska, it would be different, but it's California. You're right in the middle of California in the high-speed rail. It's coming at you. When I said this to my dear friends in Bentonville, the Walton family, they said, you know, we're going to build a new headquarters here, and we want to make Bentonville better, and we're going to have an art museum here, and we're going to have great restaurants. And I said, when you execute on that, watch, and they started laughing. Bentonville, no one's ever going to move to Bentonville. This is hysterical. You're an idiot. They called me back in 2 years and said, will you write the affordable housing strategy because we have so many people coming here? Housing is now $1,500, $2,000 a foot in downtown Bentonville. It's coming. I guarantee you it's coming at you. So the most important thing you need to do as you plot this aggressive future strategy, to think about how you can maintain, and what worries me is when I go to city after city that I love, Austin, Texas, I don't recognize it. I mean, people complain sometimes about suburban development. There's a lot of urban development that takes your history right away. When I go to Nashville, what are we doing in Nashville? We're trying to preserve our history. We're trying to preserve music growth. And the development impetus is like, knock it all down and put some new things in it. And we're saying, no. We love those national restaurants, but can we have a few local things too? I think you need to not only have an executable plan for the future, but you need to have an executable plan that says, as the flywheel starts to turn, and once it starts turning, it just goes and goes and goes, that we can make sure that the Fresno we love, that the history we love is okay.
I think I know a good note to end